A few years ago, I was at a job interview and suddenly the woman across from me caught my attention. I watched her. She was around 40, maybe a little older. Her hair didn't look particularly perfect and she was wearing a very ordinary blazer. When she walked into the room, no one even stood up. But the moment she started speaking, everyone suddenly fell silent. They weren't just quiet, they were actually showing her great respect, even pulling their chairs closer. Of course, I did the same. After that interview, she never really left my mind. Weeks later, I asked myself, what was it about that woman? Beauty? No, not that. Money? That's unclear. Did she have charisma? I might say so, but where does this thing called charisma actually come from? No one was asking that. I wanted to explore this on my own, and as I kept asking myself this question, especially based on the observations I'd made over the years, I began to think about dozens, even hundreds of women, one by one in my mind. Some of them had spent a lot to prove themselves, on hair, clothes, or things like that. Others, almost nothing. But whether or not they stood out wasn't actually about the money spent. There was a completely different factor at play here. The moment I fully understood this, everything started to change instantly. Some studies conducted in the US show us this. People form their first impressions of someone in just 3 to 4 seconds. So even before you've uttered a single word, a judgment about you has already been made in some way. So I want to ask you this. Have you ever thought about whose favor that decision was made in? I have to admit that this is exactly why I made this video. Right now, you're in this room, and in this video, of course, I'm here specifically for you. Being ignored is actually a powerful emotion, but it's certainly not destiny. We mustn't confuse the two. I recommend watching the video all the way through because what I'm going to say in these 7 points is probably something you've never heard before. Once you hear this, you won't be able to look at many things the same way again. Before we move on to the first point, I want you to do something small but powerful. Write this in the comments. I am someone who cannot be ignored. That's all. But writing that sentence isn't just an interaction, it's a vocal declaration to yourself. The moment you write it, you're looking at yourself, not the screen. And that gaze is the starting point for everything we're discussing in this video. Another woman reading this will make the same decision, perhaps exactly when she needs it most. That's how power spreads. Not through grand gestures, but through small yet genuine moments. 1. You are absolutely not obligated to fill every silence. Picture a meeting in your mind. There are 10 people at the table. Someone says something, and then there's silence. Immediately, someone else jumps in, adding something, trying to close that moment of silence, that gap in some way. Then another person, then yet another. What I'm trying to say is this. Everyone is speaking in some way, filling those gaps. Of course, by the time the meeting ends, no one really remembers those who filled the gaps. In fact, the ones remembered are those who sat quietly in the corner, spoke just 2 sentences, but those 2 sentences hit the mark perfectly. Being able to stay silent is not actually a sign of weakness. On the contrary, it becomes an extremely powerful card in the hands of those who use it sparingly. Here's the reality. Unfortunately, many women feel uncomfortable with silence. I understand this very well. Silence creates social pressure, making it feel like something is missing in the room. I agree. But I want you to know this in particular. Every time you feel that pressure and feel the urge to start speaking immediately, you're actually handing over control of that moment to someone else. You're likely doing this without even realizing it. About 2 to 3 years ago, I met a woman in a mentoring program. Her name was Kristen from Seattle. She was just past middle age and generally had a calm demeanor. Especially during group discussions, as far as I could tell, she wouldn't speak for the first 10 minutes. She'd just listen carefully to those around her. Her gaze was quite sharp, and her face showed little expression. At first, I thought she was a bit shy, until I heard her speak. When she spoke, the energy in the room shifted instantly. because she had fully internalized everything everyone had said, filtered out the unnecessary parts, and spoke only the essence of the matter, exactly what needed to be said. Over time, I realized that Kristin's silence was actually a unique preparation phase of her own. People would start waiting because they knew the moment she was about to speak. If we look at the situation from a different angle, a university study clearly demonstrated that people who speak little but say the right things create a much higher perception of authority within a group. In other words, fewer words carry more weight. This is by no means a strategic maneuver. It is the plain truth. Now, right here, I want to ask you this. How many times have you felt the urge to speak just to fill the silence? How many times have you said something irrelevant, something you didn't actually need to say, out of that feeling of, there's too much silence right now, I have to say something? How did you feel when you did that? Did a thought like, I wish I'd stayed silent, cross your mind? I want you to know this, that silence isn't something to be afraid of. That silence is actually your space. From now on, in a conversation or a chat, pause for a moment. Just a moment. Take a deep breath before speaking. That breath will give you two things. First, enough time to clarify what you're going to say. Second, it sends the message to the person across from you that this woman speaks thoughtfully, and that will give you strength. Words aren't gold. Words spoken at the right time are gold. By the way, I want to mention something small. Maybe this isn't the first video you've watched on this channel. Maybe you've been here quietly for a few videos. And if you haven't subscribed yet, believe me, I'd love to see you stay in this family for good. Because here, we're not just watching videos. We're growing stronger together, realizing things together, and sometimes finding ourselves again in the same sentence. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll not only give me invaluable support, but we'll also continue this journey without losing sight of each other. 2. Make up your mind before you walk into the room. Pause for a second or two right before you walk through the door. This isn't a ritual, it's actually the final moment before you make your decisions. Many women walk into a room and then try to adjust themselves. They scan the environment, read the room, size up the people, and even position themselves based on that data. Actually, this is completely the opposite of what should happen. Because as you know, within the first 3 to 5 seconds of entering a room, people, whether they want to or not, will have already assessed you. While you're still trying to adjust, they've already made their decisions about you. And that first decision, unfortunately, is one that's very hard to change later. A study conducted by Harvard researchers showed us that people make the decision of whether someone they've just met is trustworthy or not within just the first few seconds, even before a single word has been spoken. As I mentioned earlier, that decision is already clearly formed by the time you walk through the door. So what does this mean? I need to say this right away. Your entrance into a room sends a much stronger message than your conversation. Years ago, at an event, I met a woman named Renee. She was an entrepreneur from Chicago, just past her 50s. She was slightly short, but she had a style that didn't let that show at all. When she walked through the door into the room, I didn't think to myself, there she is. But I still began to sense that something in the room had shifted. Later, I gave it some thought and started to wonder exactly what it was. She wasn't flustered, she hadn't rushed in, and her gaze wasn't unfocused. It was as if she knew with absolute certainty that she already belonged in that room. He had such confidence that it seemed he'd already decided this for himself before even telling you. And that decision was clearly visible in every move he made. Maybe that was the essence of it all. So before you walk into a room, you need to ask yourself, what am I here to convey today? A confident stance, calmness, authority, or warmth and sincerity? You don't have to carry all of these at once. Choose one from within and be very clear about it. Because if you don't make that decision beforehand, those around you will make it for you in no time. And remember, the decision they make will generally not be what you want. This may seem like a small habit. It isn't. It's the foundation of how you position yourself. Stand at the door, take a breath. Say to yourself, I belong here and I know why I'm here. Then enter. You'll feel the difference within the first week. 3. Be remembered without your name. I actually want to start by asking you something. Have you ever thought about how people describe you? To give an example, if they start by saying, I met a woman the other day, and can't continue, that's a sign. Because people who truly leave an impression don't need a name. You're not described as that blonde woman, but as that woman, the one who changes the room when she walks in. Or you're not described at all. They just ask, do you know her? And the person across from you immediately gets it. Of course, this isn't some abstract concept. It's concrete and something you can learn. In fact, you don't need to talk a lot to leave a lasting impression. Quite the opposite. A single good question leaves a deeper impression than a 10-minute conversation. When you genuinely show interest in the person you're talking to, not superficially, but truly, they won't be able to forget you. Because most people don't feel truly listened to enough in their lives. When you listen to them, you become unique in that moment. Additionally, in social psychology, this is called the reverse spotlight effect. People tend to talk about themselves, but when you put the other person at the center, paradoxically, you're the one who sticks in their mind. Research conducted at Columbia University revealed that a person who makes the other person feel truly listened to in a conversation is perceived as much more compelling and attractive. But there's a fine line here. Be careful. As you can see, asking everyone about everything, saying wow to every word, or appearing overly interested in every situation, this doesn't leave an impression. It's exhausting. People will label you as well-meaning and move on. If you want to be remembered, be selective. Don't ask everyone. Ask the right person, at the right time, the right question. To give an example, a woman I met at a conference in Miami has never left my mind. Her name was Diane. She wore red-framed glasses, was in her 50s, spoke little, but whenever she did, she always asked a question. She asked me just one thing that day. So why didn't you quit this job? Nothing else. That question kept me thinking all night. It's still on my mind. Not Diane, that question. But that question was Diane after all. That's it. That's what it means to leave a mark without a name. To ask, not to explain. To spark curiosity, not to provide an answer. To leave an imprint, deep, silent, lasting. For example, from now on, ask yourself this every time you meet someone. How do I want to be remembered by this person? And act accordingly. Leave just one thing, strong, meaningful, real. Ultimately, making an impression without a name works the same way in professional life as it does in social settings. In a meeting, a job interview, a presentation, the woman who asks the right question, stays silent at the right moment, and truly listens to the person across from her is the one who sticks in people's minds. It's not your resume, it's the feeling you leave behind. And that feeling opens doors. Because people remember you not for what you said, but for how you made them feel when you were there. Once you internalize this, you'll start behaving differently in every situation, without even realizing it. 4. Don't filter your thoughts. Essentially, I want to start by saying this. You want to say something. You pause. Will they misunderstand me? Crosses your mind. Am I going too far? Is this the right time? And the moment passes. You don't say it. The meeting ends, the conversation wraps up, and you go home still carrying that unspoken sentence inside you. Does this sound familiar to you? Unfortunately, most women filter their thoughts 3 times before speaking up. Will it be accepted? Will it be liked? Is it too bold? And this filtering process often kills the best idea, the right moment. What's left are only the safe, ordinary things that are likely to be approved. And someone who says ordinary things is remembered as ordinary. Looking at it from another angle, A study conducted at the University of Michigan found that people who share their ideas without hesitation in meetings are rated much higher in terms of leadership potential. It's not just the content of the idea, the very courage to speak it carries a message in itself. Of course, at this very point, understand this. Waiting for approval is a habit, and like any habit, it seeps in without you realizing it. It starts with, "I'll be more careful this time." Over time, it becomes, "This is just who I am." And this is the most dangerous part. It's no longer a choice, but an identity. Filtering your thoughts doesn't make you humble. It makes you invisible. Those are two very different things. If we approach this practically, at your next meeting, in your next conversation, in that very moment, speak the first strong thought that comes to mind. Don't worry about crafting the perfect sentence. Don't be certain everyone will agree. Just say it. Plain, clear, direct. Observe the reactions. Most of the time you'll see that what you feared didn't happen, but what you said, it stayed in the room. No one listens to the ideas of someone who keeps their voice down, because to listen, they first have to hear. Never forget that filtering your thoughts affects not just that moment, but yourself over time. Every time you stay silent, every time you hold back, something small inside you breaks, without even realizing it. And as those cracks accumulate, one day you look back, and even when you have something to say, you no longer want to speak up. Because once silence becomes a habit, it's no longer a choice, it's a reflex. Breaking that reflex starts with speaking a thought boldly, even if it's a small one. Today. 5. Pay attention, really. In the modern world we live in, how many people are looking at their phones while talking to you right now? How many are scanning their surroundings instead of making eye contact? How many show on their faces that their minds are elsewhere while you're speaking? Most of them, right? And that feeling, that sense of invisibility, makes you not want to open up to that person as much anymore. Now turn to yourself and ask, what are you doing? Here's the reality. Attention is today's scarcest resource. Everyone has a phone, everyone gets notifications, everyone's mind is scattered. That's why genuine attention, 100% focused, phone-free and undistracted, now feels like a luxury to the person you're talking to. And things that feel like a luxury are unforgettable. Of course, don't view this as just a simple technique. This is actually something much deeper. When you truly listen to the person in front of you while they're speaking, you don't just hear their words, you also hear what they're not saying, their tone, where they pause, how their eyes change. And at that moment, a single sentence you say creates a much stronger connection than hours of ordinary conversation. I met her at a workshop last year. Her name was Morgan. She was in her early 40s, had short brown hair, and was a quiet woman. She didn't stand out much in the group, but whoever spoke with her one-on-one came away from that conversation feeling different. I experienced this too. While she was talking to me, her phone was in her bag, her eyes were on me, and she'd occasionally tilt her head slightly. She was just listening. When our conversation ended, she said to me, "Why haven't you told anyone this until now?" That sentence froze me, because she had listened so well that she had even heard the things I hadn't said. Morgan wasn't doing anything special, really. She was just truly present. Also, let me give you a concrete tip. Try this for a week. When talking to someone, put your phone in your bag, not on the table. Don't take your eyes off the person you're talking to. Pause for a second before responding. Just these 3 things. After a week, you'll see with your own eyes how people's attitudes toward you have changed. The woman who gives her attention is remembered more than the woman wearing the most expensive perfume in the room, because scent fades. But the feeling you evoke, that lingers. The bottom line is this: truly giving your attention speaks volumes to the person across from you without saying a word. It says, You matter to me. In America, in this world where everyone is glued to their screens and face-to-face conversation is becoming a rare thing, the impact of truly looking at someone is doubled. People experience this so rarely that they're surprised when they do. And they don't forget the person who surprised them. Give your attention. That alone is enough to set you apart from the crowd. 6. Don't repeat. Aim to go deeper. Have you ever thought about this, for example? Do you know what happens when you say something twice? The person across from you has already heard it the first time. The second time, they subconsciously think, are they not confident in themselves? By the third time, they stop listening, because the brain automatically categorizes repeated information as unimportant. This isn't a feeling, it's a neurological fact. Repeating is the quietest sign of insecurity. Especially, observe this in your next conversation. You said something, and the other person didn't react, or didn't react the way you expected. What did you do? Did you repeat the same thing with different words? Did you start with, "What I mean is"? Right at that moment, you've diluted the weight of your own words. Say the sentence once. Say it with conviction. Then, be silent. Wait for the response. That moment of waiting doesn't make you look weak. On the contrary, it shows you stand behind what you've said. In addition, going deeper is an entirely different matter. It's not about repeating the same idea, it's about digging beneath it. You said something, and the person across from you looked at you with interest. At that point, most people expand, go off on tangents, list examples. You, however, go to the core of that idea, one layer deeper. Not, "I'm saying this because," but simply that "because" itself. Not abstract, but concrete. Not general, but sharp. Here's what I want to talk about. There was a woman I met in Chicago named Patricia, in her 60s, who always wore her gray hair in a bun. She was a retired lawyer. She sat next to me at a dinner. There were 8 of us at the table. The conversation opened and closed. Everyone said something. Patricia spoke exactly 4 sentences that evening. 4. But those 4 sentences stopped the conversation every single time. No one asked, "What did you mean?" No one said, "So?" Because each of her sentences was so spot on, so clear, that adding anything to them felt pointless. By the end of the evening, everyone remembered what Patricia had said. Not a single sentence from the others' long speeches had stuck in my mind. Few words, deep impact. This isn't just a slogan. Patricia proved it that evening. There's also this fact. Research on communication at Stanford has shown that people who speak sparingly but meaningfully are perceived by listeners as far more intelligent and trustworthy. It's not the number of words, but the quality of the words that shapes perception. I should also add this. From now on, before you say anything, ask yourself, is this sentence really necessary, or am I just saying it to fill the silence? If it's the latter, stay silent. That silence speaks louder than any sentence you might utter. Depth comes not from the abundance of words, but from the choice of words. Say it once. Say it right. Let it do its work. Ultimately, the discipline of not repeating yourself applies not only to your conversations, but also to your written communications, messages, and emails. How many times have you written the same thing in different sentences, then deleted it all, only to add it again? That cycle is fueled by the same lack of confidence. Write something, write clearly, send it. If the other person doesn't understand, they'll ask. But most of the time they will understand, because you wrote clearly. Depth comes not from the number of words, but from word choice. This works the same way in spoken conversation as it does in written communication. 7. The way you carry yourself reveals everything clearly. Many women make a concerted effort to correct their body language. Stand up straight, pull your shoulders back, push your chest out, as if it were a checklist. This approach is wrong, because body language isn't something to be corrected. It flows from the inside out. A forced posture looks like a forced posture, and the person on the other end feels it, even if they don't say so. On this topic, Amy Cuddy's research at Harvard revealed that body language doesn't just affect how others perceive you, it directly influences your own self-confidence level. In other words, how you stand shapes how you feel. It works from the outside in. But for this, you need to own it, not just put on a show. The critical question here is, what does owning it mean? It means this. When you walk, your steps don't apologize. When you sit, you don't hesitate to spread out in your chair. You don't unnecessarily hunch over. When you speak, you don't feel the need to hide your hands. You can look someone in the eye without flinching, but without being aggressive either. These all seem like small things. They're not. Essentially, body language isn't a technique. It's a choice. Today, right now, when you stand up, carry yourself. Not by counting your steps or pulling your shoulders back, but because you belong here and you know it. That difference is always felt by the person across from you. Always. Never forget this. This isn't just about the workplace or social settings. Even when you wake up in the morning, at home, all alone, how you carry yourself matters. Hunching over just because no one is watching turns hunching into a habit over time. Stand tall even if no one is watching. Speak clearly even if no one is listening. Because the body learns what it repeats. And what it learns, out there under pressure, in the most critical moments, it does automatically. Practice how you carry yourself first with yourself. The outside world will follow. 8. Be visible, but never cheap. As many of us might guess, being visible isn't the same as being everywhere. Many women confuse the two, and this confusion works against them. Someone who speaks at every meeting, lists opinions in every conversation, and tries to be present in every setting, eventually becomes background noise. You hear them, but you no longer listen. You see them, but you no longer look. Visibility is measured not by frequency, but by substance. Looking cheap isn't just about clothes. Understanding this is crucial. Of course, generally speaking, being cheap means oversharing. Letting everything out in every setting to everyone. Being cheap means laughing for approval, even when something isn't really funny. Being cheap means saying yes to every invitation because you're afraid you won't be liked if you say no. Being cheap means trying to prove yourself without anyone asking. None of this has anything to do with clothes, but they all affect you in the same way. They diminish your value. Looking at it from a different perspective, let's now shift to the positive side of being visible. Being visible means leaving a strong impression in selective areas. Speak where you're an expert, and really speak there. Join a conversation where you can add value and be fully present there. Go when invited, but when you go, be 100% there. Selectivity doesn't make you cold, it makes you valuable. For instance, let's also address the matter of clothing, since it's part of the equation. Being visible isn't about going overboard to draw attention. An outfit that's already in the spotlight, one that highlights itself rather than you, doesn't make you visible. It makes the outfit visible. You're left in the background. The goal is this. When you walk into a room, people should see you first, then notice what you're wearing. That's the order. If it's the other way around, something's going wrong. As you can see, be visible, but be selective. Don't spread your value thin in every setting. Your energy, your time, your words, your presence, these are all resources. And like any resource, when spent without limit, it loses its value. Where does the room change when you go? Be there. Just be there. if I may add one more thing. The most underestimated aspect of being visible is consistency. If you leave a strong impression today but are everywhere tomorrow, that impression fades. Visibility isn't a fleeting performance, it's a sustained stance. People come to understand you over time. And if what they read is consistent, if they see the same essence every time, then true weight is formed. Not a single powerful moment, but dozens of moments that support one another. That's when you become that woman, recognized without being defined, understood without explanation. 9. Choose where to invest your energy. Don't spread it thin. Let's visualize this. Where did you spend most of your energy last week? On which conversation, which relationship, which environment? And what did you get in return for that investment? Did it help you grow, or did it just wear you out? Unfortunately, most women never ask themselves this question. Energy is treated as if it were an unlimited resource, a little for everyone, a little for everywhere, a little for the neighbor, a little for the co-worker, a little for a stranger's problem. And what's left at the end of the day? Nothing, or worse, just exhaustion. But here's the interesting part. A woman who spreads her energy isn't just draining herself. She's also sending the wrong message to the people around her. The message, I'm always here, always available, always saying yes. And people pick up on this very quickly. Once they do, they no longer see you as a valuable resource, but as a guaranteed one. The difference between the two is huge. Of course, energy management isn't selfishness, it's a strategy, or rather, a necessity. Additionally, regarding this topic, a study conducted at Johns Hopkins University revealed that people who use their social energy selectively build much stronger and more lasting connections in both their personal relationships and professional lives. When comparing someone who forms superficial connections with everyone to someone who forms deep connections with just a few people, the latter outperforms the former in every measure. They're remembered more, trusted more, and sought out more. So then, how do you apply this in your life? First, realize this. Not every invitation is a must. Responding to every message immediately isn't a virtue. Taking on everyone's problems isn't an act of kindness. It's often just a habit. And this habit is slowly, silently draining you. As a concrete suggestion, I'd say this. Make a list this week. It can be mental or on paper. Divide the people in your life into two groups, those who nurture you and those who drain you. Spend more time with the nurturers. Consciously reduce the time you spend with the drainers. Don't explain yourself to anyone. Don't apologize. Just step back slowly. Will they notice? Maybe. But the one who will really notice is you. How different you'll feel in a few weeks. Especially if you try to reach everyone, you won't truly reach anyone. Where your energy flows, you flow. Don't forget that. In the end, choosing where to direct your energy isn't about rejecting people, it's about showing yourself respect. Don't confuse the two. You don't have to be cold, you don't have to be distant, but you also don't have to run every time someone knocks on the door. The relationships that truly matter won't disappear when you choose your energy. On the contrary, they'll grow stronger, because they'll notice too, this woman isn't running everywhere, but she's here for me. And that feeling, mutually, takes that relationship to a whole new level. 10. Clarify your identity to yourself. At the very beginning of this point, I'll ask you a very simple question. If you have to think to answer it, that's already an answer. Who are you? Not your title, not a mother, a wife, or an employee. All of those are roles. Roles change, fade, and end. So what lies beneath? Which values are non-negotiable for you? What makes you feel at ease when you say no? What makes you feel constricted when you say yes? If you don't know these things, or if you think you know them but can't find an answer when asked, then others are defining you. And someone defined by others will never truly be seen. Clarity of identity isn't a luxury, it's essential. Of course, think of it this way. There are two women. The first one is a little different in every setting, serious at work, laid back with friends, and a completely different person with her family. She's constantly adapting, constantly adjusting. The second is essentially the same in every setting. Her tone may change, but her values don't. It's hard to define the first one. Once you get to know the second, it's hard to forget her, because consistency builds trust, and trust comes before everything else. In fact, you can see this especially in America. Dozens of options, dozens of identity suggestions, every platform offering you a different version. Be stronger, be more compassionate, be more successful, be more humble. Amid this noise, hearing your own voice grows increasingly difficult, and the woman who can't hear that voice follows the loudest one. And that changes every time. Research shows that individuals with a strong sense of identity are far less likely to crumble under stress and far less likely to be shaped by social pressure. In other words, knowing who you are isn't just a matter of self-confidence, it's a psychological armor. For example, you can apply this in a concrete way. Today, after you close this video, take a piece of paper. Write down 3 things. First, what values will I never compromise on? Second, what type of person drains me the most and why? Third, what was the moment when I was most satisfied with myself? The answers to these 3 questions will give you the outline of your identity. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just start. Here's another point. If you don't define yourself, others will define you. And someone defined by others, no matter how well they dress or how eloquently they speak, remains completely invisible. Because being seen isn't about the surface. It's about knowing who you are. Essentially, all 10 of these points are tools. But this last one, it's the foundation. Everything with a solid foundation stands firm. Of course, as a clear fact, clarifying your identity doesn't happen in a single day. It doesn't have to. But if you get a little closer to those 3 questions every day, if you make your decisions a little more consciously every day, then you're moving in the right direction. Aim for a perfect identity. Aim for a consistent identity, because perfection is exhausting, while consistency builds you over time. And what is built becomes unshakable. After discussing these 10 points, I'd like to briefly say this. As you may have noticed, there's a single truth underlying them all. Being overlooked isn't a matter of luck. To put it plainly, it's entirely a matter of awareness, and that is how you enter a situation, when to stay silent, to whom and how you give your energy, how you carry yourself. All of these, one by one, are decisions. Up until now, you might have been making these decisions without much thought. But now that you're aware of this, I truly believe you'll make much better decisions from here on out. Now I want just one thing from you. Close this video and grab that piece of paper. Do it today. Don't put it off until tomorrow. Because those who say, "I'll start tomorrow," usually never do. And that's exactly why they're still in the same place years later. You watched this video all the way through. That alone says something about you. Now take one more step. Let it be small, but let it be real. Staying invisible wasn't a fate, and you know that now. If this video has brought you even a little bit of awareness, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Because here, with every video, we grow a little stronger, get a little closer to ourselves, and learn to face life with a more upright stance. Be kind to yourself. Don't entrust your worth to anyone else's gaze. And remember, when a woman recognizes her own light, She gains the power to transform not just her own life, but every place she touches. See you in the next video.